Hello interwebs, hope you're all doing well. So today's video was going to be on a completely different subject, though trans-related. Actually on J.K. Rowling of all people. I know, crazy subject, what would a trans person have to say about J.K. Rowling? But I actually instead of focusing on something so difficult to talk about, I want to talk about something beautiful. Because this past weekend, a YouTuber who I greatly admire, in fact is one of my biggest creative inspirations, came out as trans. Abigail Thorn of Philosophytube. And the way she came out as trans, through her video Identity, I have to be completely honest, it was one of the most inspiring and moving things that I've seen in quite a while, especially as a trans person. And so, I've been trying to put my thoughts on why her video meant so much to me into words through writing. And every time I've just been hit with a swell of emotion that just makes me want to say it, to just say it out loud to all of you without a script, to just share what I'm feeling after having watched her video, which affected me deeply on both an ideological level and a deeply personal level. And so let's start off with the ideological level about why I think Philosophytube's coming out video, Abigail Thorn's coming out video, was so deeply moving to me. For those of you who haven't seen her video, and I would highly recommend that you do, especially before watching this one, but for those of you who haven't or need a reminder, is that the first 75 minutes of the video, the character of Philosophytube, I guess you would say, the person that has been in all of the Philosophytube videos up until now, is being played by an actor. Not only an actor who is different from Abigail Thorn herself, who does work primarily as an actor. Someone completely different is taking on the role of Philosophytube, but speaking as if he is that character, that person that we have been watching for so many videos, speaking in that same voice, that same tone, that same outfit, as if he was that person. Because that person never existed. And that's the point that Philosophytube makes throughout that entire video, that the person that we have been watching this entire time, over the many, many videos that she has put up on her channel, the person that we thought was Philosophytube was just a role that she was playing, something that she put on to appear on stage, that she was just acting for all of us. So right there, that's a deeply poetic idea, to showcase that this role that you've been playing has just been someone else for other people. And yes, there's the degree of that just within, any type of creative work, a YouTube platform where you're sort of putting yourself out there. I mean, the person you see me today, even though I'm fully out as trans, is a version of myself, a kind of role that I am playing. So I connected with that deeply, and as a trans person, I obviously deeply, deeply connected with that as well. But the thing that struck me was how she decided to end her video. Because at the end of her video, after she's spoken and, given us a whole bunch of philosophy, which I'll come back to in just a second, she, or at least the character that this actor is playing, takes a bow and says goodbye, and she comes out of the back of the stage with this beautiful smile on her face. A smile that I think every trans person knows. The smile that you see yourself having in the mirror when you recognize yourself for the first time. The person that you've been hiding underneath everything appears to you for the first time. It was nice to recognize that smile on someone else's face. Portrayed beautifully. I'm sure that wasn't the first time that she gave that smile, but the way she showed it in the video just hit me. And then she sat down looking freaking amazing. Her hair was incredibly on point, but she sat down in her chair and she shared her story about how she felt so happy to be in her body. And she shared that story of coming out with such joy, and she has this moment, and this is what resonated with me the most in her video. she pauses and she devilishly smiles at the camera, if I can speak words, and says, I bet you expected me to share a traumatic story. Share something like, oh, I used to wear dresses when I was coming out as a child, and oh, the pain and the hurt that I had to go through, all this traumatic experience, this surgical intervention that I want to have, all this pain. And she said, yes, that is part of it. I felt that. But what I feel now is relaxation in my body, happiness with my body. And yes, there are difficult experiences attached to it, but I just feel joy at being me now. And that moment is what struck me the most. You see, for trans people, the discourse around our bodies, our livelihoods, who we are, is always about our pain, about how we are victims, of how we're hurt. And yes, that is a part of every trans person's experience. In fact, it may be the predominant part of many trans people's experiences, especially in a world that does not wish to treat us as equals, as deserving of the same access to humanity that others have. But for me, there's also so much beauty in it, too. There's so much beauty in being trans. I spoke about that moment where she smiles as she walked out, the smile that I had when I, one day came out of the shower and looked at myself in the mirror that I had been avoiding for months now after coming out, because I just never saw the person that I wanted to see, and I caught a glance at myself and said, oh, don't hate who that person is. I don't hate what I look like. And yeah, there was a lot more to do. Still not even fully there yet. I still don't look exactly like I always envisioned myself, but again, who really does, ever? But that moment was one of the most beautiful moments of my life. I think about it so often, and the moment I got to wear a dress for the first time around friends, a sweater dress, no less. I love sweater dresses. Never talked about that, but I always used to envision wearing sweater dresses, so the first time I got to wear a sweater dress going out was beautiful. All the way to today, where I get to be weird and trans on YouTube and be outward and strange and get to wear dresses and feminine clothing all day long, and I take that for granted. I take it for granted. That's a beautiful thing, the fact that it is just commonplace to me now. That's wonderful. And it was just so nice to hear her, Abigail Thorn, remind me of that. To remind me that this experience of being trans is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Because it's something I truly believe. Deep, deep within my soul. That we are not victims. Yes, being victims and being victimized and being ostracized and facing prejudice is 100% part of our experience. It's definitely part of all of our experiences, especially the experience of trans people of color. Which, by the way, I call that out because it is by no means incidental that the story that resonated with Abigail Thorn that she shared earlier in her video was by a black lesbian woman, Audre Lorde. That fight to be seen as just as human, that fight to see ourselves as beautiful and not just victims, is something shared across so many marginalized groups. Yes, different contexts, different levels, different pains, different specific traumas, but that is a shared experience, and one that people of color, and especially black people in the United States and other Western countries, have been fighting for so long and have been so vocal about. And I also don't mean to imply that Abigail Thorn's words are somehow something new that she came up with. No, it's something that I've said before, it's something that I've thought before, it's something that many trans people have thought before, it's something that many trans people have died saying. And again, mostly trans people of color, like Marsha P. Johnson, who died fighting to say that being trans was a beautiful thing. But it was nice to be reminded in such a poetic way in Abigail Thorn's video. It was truly beautiful. But you see, her video was, like I said, just a reminder. A reminder of things that I had already thought, a reminder of things that other people had said. Many, many other people had said. And that bit, the fact that it was a reminder, is what hit me so personally. She said it in such a beautiful, beautiful way, but it was something that so many people throughout history have been saying about what it means to be human. That being human is a beautiful, beautiful thing. You see, I spoke about recently in one of my videos about how I have more confidence in my voice than I ever had throughout my entire life. And that is incredibly true. Making things and putting them out into the world has made me, and the fact that other people have resonated with the things that I made has made me feel more confident in what I have to say. But it is also weird because the things that I make, I feel like they're silly and weird and this like crazy thing that I just managed to shove out into the world, and I don't realize that they're going to affect anybody until other people are affected by them. But I'm just sharing my weird thoughts. But my weird thoughts are what connect with others. You see, I worry a lot that what I have to say won't be new, won't be different, won't be something radically meaningful that will change the world. That's what I'm always trying to do in my brain. And that's not what art is. That's not what being human is. It's about just sharing feelings and emotions in as artful a way as you possibly can, but just sharing things that we all feel. Because we all feel. There's this thing that I believe, that there are no new stories in the world, only new storytellers. But we're all sharing the same stories together. We're all just retelling the same story of humanity over and over and over and over again. And it's why I talk about trans issues on my channel, not just without talking just about the victimization, but about the beauty of being trans. But I also try and share those stories in an effort to not say how different and weird and strange and unique being trans is, but to share with all of you who may not be trans that the feelings that I feel as a trans person are probably very similar to feelings that you have felt in your life. That we all feel these same things, just in different ways, in different contexts, but we all still feel them. As a huge Star Trek nerd, obviously got to bring Star Trek into it, I believe in infinite diversity and infinite combinations, that our differences make us stronger, because it is our differences in which we find our singularity, our commonalities. There is universality in the specific. And so I may be trans, you may not be trans, but we're all still human. We all experience the same pain, hurt, emotions, and feelings. And it's nice to be reminded that beauty cuts across identity. As I said before, there are no new stories, only new storytellers. And I believe each one of our lives is a story. A story that takes its own pathways, gets told its own unique way, but has many of the same beats, has the same beginning, has the same end, and maybe a few different dots and spots along in the middle, but generally a lot of the same stuff happens. And that's good. That's beautiful. It's what connects us all. The specifics of any story are defined by the things that we love, the things that mean things to us. I define my story by things like Star Trek or Lord of the Rings or the people that mean so much to me, or making weird videos on the internet. That's the specifics of my story. But I'm sure those specific resonates with all of you in different ways. And being trans is also part of that story. But those specifics, those things that we love that define us, what make us unique, also make us part of a larger whole too. And so I want to end this video saying something to Abigail. If by some chance she watches this video, I doubt she will, but if she does, I'll say this to her. But it is something that I say to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for sharing with me and with the world the gift of who you are. Thank you for sharing your story of who you are. And more importantly, thank you for sharing that gift of who you are with yourself too. It really means a lot. And I just look forward to listening to more of that story. Patrons, you are my patrons. You are so awesome. So here are your names. Catherine Lambeth, Eli Berg Moss, Ashley Allen, Bo Kikio, Miranda Janelle, Ashlyn Solstice, Greg Gillum, Stephen Kleinard, Camille T, Randy Thompson, Stephen Schuhart, Boyd Earl, and Mary Beth Earl, Wellington Marcus, Wayne Twitchell, Rick Osborne, Roar, Ish the Mad, Piston Twisted Garage, Dominic Noble, Buttoneer, John Steele, Michael Beam, Gavin Robinson, Carmen Olson, William Stewart, Amanda Ronya, Hannah F., Nathan Olson, Andrew Jorgensen, BBD, Jason Knott, Maeve, saying it twice because I can, Andrew K., Bree Beecher, Jasmine, Nathan Steele, Skylar Gray, Lily, Tiffany Danger, Sean Piper, Wen Dizzle Bizzle, Bush, Jane Packard, Geek Filter, Mari Neckard, Jacob Tovar, Polymenia, Celestial Dawn, Jean Mithun, Sarah Bystam Din, Mark the Edge, Corey Honkanen, and Vale the Pale Dunn, Lysa, W. Randy Eady, Andrew Lamoureux, Zone 1 Librarian, and finally, Michael Hardy. I am sorry for that, but seriously, thank you so much, patrons. You really mean the world to me, and you really are changing my life, even if I may have changed your life for the worst with my singing. Thank you so much for all of your support.